Buddhism, a profound spiritual path and philosophy, blossomed from the teachings of the Buddha, a compassionate teacher who lived in northern India between the mid-6th and mid-4th centuries BCE. His wisdom transcended with time and geography, spreading from its birthplace in India to touch the hearts and minds of people across Central and Southeast Asia, China, Korea, and Japan. For centuries, Buddhism has been a guiding light in the spiritual, cultural, and social fabric of Asia. In the 20th century, its transformative message began to resonate deeply in the West, offering new paths of understanding and connection. The sacred teachings of Buddhism were preserved and developed in the closely intertwined literary languages of ancient India, particularly Pali and Sanskrit. These scriptures embraces Pali and Sanskrit terms that have found their way into English, treating them as part of the language we now share. However, some terms, such as the Sanskrit word dharma, carry profound meanings that extend beyond the common English usage, demanding deeper reflection. We shall cover the teachings of Buddha and the various schools of thought in some other video. Now let us get into the rise and fall of Buddhism in India. After the Buddha's passing, his legacy continued to thrive. His life story, remembered and enriched over time, became an inspiration for generations. His teachings were carefully preserved and expanded, and the community he nurtured grew into a powerful spiritual force. Many wandering ascetics settled into permanent monastic communities, creating structured rules and traditions. At the same time, the ranks of Buddhist lay followers swelled, including influential figures from the economic and political elite. Buddhism's reach extended rapidly in its early years. From its birthplace in Magadha and Kosala, it spread across northern India, reaching cities like Mathura and Ujjain in the west. According to tradition, just over a century after the Buddha's death, monks from across northern and central India were invited to the Council of Vaishali to preserve the teachings and unify the community. During the reign of Emperor Ashoka, the Mauryan Empire reached its zenith, radiating power, prosperity, and a transformative sense of purpose. Ashoka's journey as a ruler was profoundly shaped by one defining moment, the Battle of Kalinga. This war, marked by unimaginable bloodshed, left Ashoka deeply shaken, haunted by the suffering his conquests had wrought. In the throes of guilt and remorse, he found solace and redemption in Buddhism, a faith that would not only transform his own life but also leave an indelible mark on his empire and the world. Ashoka's belief in the Buddha's teachings inspired him to send ambassadors far and wide, spreading the message of Buddhism beyond the borders of India. This transformation wasn't just personal, it reshaped the cultural and spiritual landscape of his empire. Both the Mahavamsa and Ashoka recount Ashoka's awe-inspiring mission to construct 84,000 stupas and viharas. According to the Mahavamsa, this monumental endeavor spanned his 5th to 7th regnal years. The Ashoka adds a vivid detail. Ashoka gathered 7 of the 8 sacred relics of Gautama Buddha, enshrined them in exquisite boxes made of gold, silver, cat's eye and crystal, and distributed them across his empire. These relics became the spiritual heart of the 84,000 stupas he built, spreading the light of Buddhism to towns with populations exceeding 100,000. Buddhist heritage like Sanchi Stupa in Madhya Pradesh, India, a masterpiece of Buddhist art and architecture. Dharmek Stupa in Sarnath, Uttar Pradesh, where the Buddha delivered his first sermon. Mahabodhi Temple in Bihar, India, the site of the Buddha's enlightenment. Barabar Caves and portions of Nalanda Mahavihara, Bihar, India. Contributions to Takshashila University, including the Dharmarajika and Kunala Stupas in present-day Pakistan. Other sites like Bharhut Stupa, Diolkothar Stupa, Butkara Stupa and Sanati Stupa that span India and Pakistan. Ashoka supported 9 pioneering Buddhist missions to spread the teachings of the Buddha. Around 250 BCE, these missions were dispatched to the far reaches of the known world, carrying the message of peace and enlightenment. While the Sri Lankan tradition credits Moggaliputta Tissa with organizing these efforts, Ashoka played a pivotal role. One of these missions was deeply personal. He sent his own son, Mahinda, to Sri Lanka, accompanied by 4 Theras, Ithya, Utya, Sambala, and Badasala. This mission profoundly influenced the spiritual fabric of the island. The Sri Lankan tradition records the names of the missionaries and their destinations: Mahinda to Sri Lanka, Majantika to Kashmir and Gandhara, Mahadeva to Mahisa Mandala, possibly modern Mysore, Rakita to Vanavasa, Dhammarakita the Greek to Aparantaka, Western India, Mahadhamma Rakita to Maharashtra, Maharakita to Greek country, Majjhima to the Himalayas, Sona and Uttara to Suvarnabhumi, likely Lower Burma and Thailand. The tradition also recounts that in his 19th regnal year, Ashoka's daughter, Sanghamita, travelled to Sri Lanka to establish an order of nuns, bringing with her a sapling of the sacred Bodhi tree. This act symbolized the enduring bond between Ashoka's empire and the spread of Buddhism. Ashoka's story lives on through Buddhist legends preserved in numerous languages: Sanskrit, Pali, Tibetan, Chinese, Burmese, Khmer, Sinhala, Thai, Lao, and Khotanese. Texts such as the Divyavadana and Mahavamsa immortalize Ashoka's journey, reminding us of his remarkable transformation. A man who, from the depths of indulgence and brutality, rose to embody righteousness and compassion. Ashoka's life is a poignant reminder that redemption is always possible and that even the fiercest hearts can be guided by the light of wisdom. Ashoka's empire, once a beacon of unity and Buddhist ideals, began to unravel soon after his death. By the early decades of the 2nd century BCE, the Mauryan dynasty had fallen, giving way to a period of turbulence. Sua Dynasty, from 185 to 73 BCE, the Sungas were the immediate successors of the Mauryas in North India, a Brahmin family of obscure origin. Pushyamitra Sunga laid the foundation of a new dynasty in Magadha, known as the Sua Dynasty. According to Harsacharita, Pushyamitra, a general of Mauryan king Brihadratha, assassinated the last Mauryan ruler and usurped the throne. Pushyamitra was succeeded by his son Agnimitra, who in turn was succeeded by his son Vasumitra. There were 7 successors of Vasumitra. The dynasty ruled roughly for 112 years, from about 185 to 73 BCE. The Sungas successfully repelled the Greek invasions too. The Shunga dynasty patronized Brahmanism. Some scholars suggest that Pushyamitra Shunga persecuted Buddhist followers and destroyed stupas. However, these are not substantiated. Agnimitra is said to have constructed 2 stupas at Sanchi. Buddhist stupas at Pahut and Sanchi were renovated. Also, the sculpture relating to Jataka stories around it existed during the same period. The Kanva dynasty, spanning from 73 to 28 BCE, is a fascinating chapter in history. The Harsacharita narrates that Devabhuti fell victim to a conspiracy masterminded by his Brahmana minister Vasudeva, who subsequently founded the Kanva dynasty. Puranic evidence reveals that 4 rulers from this dynasty governed Magadha for 45 years. These rulers were Vasudeva, Bhumimitra, Narayana, and Susaman. Their kingdom was confined to the limits of Pataliputra. According to the Puranas, the Kanvas were eventually overthrown by the Satavahanas. The Kanva rulers, being Brahmins, upheld Hinduism and were committed to Brahmanical traditions. They supported Hindu religious practices and rituals, continuing the policies of their predecessors. Temples and religious institutions likely received their patronage, although detailed records are scarce. It is pertinent to mention the Greco-Bactrians, Sakas, and Indo-Parthians. King Menanda, the most celebrated Bactrian king, left a legacy of transformation. From his seat of power in Taxila and later Sagala, modern-day Sialkot, he not only rebuilt ancient cities like Taxila, known as Sekap, and Puskalavati, but also left an indelible mark on Buddhism. Menanda's journey of faith led him to embrace Buddhism, and his profound philosophical discussions with the revered Buddhist philosopher captured in the Milinda Panha immortalized him in Buddhist tradition. His reign symbolized a harmonious blend of power and spiritual pursuit. By 90 BC, the Parthians rose to dominance, seizing control of eastern Iran, and by 50 BC, extinguishing the last traces of Greek rule in Afghanistan. Around 7 AD, an Indo-Parthian dynasty emerged, taking control of Gandhara. Remarkably, the Parthians preserved Greek artistic traditions in this region, fostering the beginnings of the iconic Gandharan Greco-Buddhist art, a style that would flourish between 50 BC and 75 AD, uniting cultures through its aesthetic and spiritual depth. The story of the Kushan Dynasty is one of resilience, unity, and cultural brilliance. Descended from the Yuezhi people, they rose to prominence, ruling over much of the northern Indian subcontinent, Afghanistan, and parts of Central Asia during the first 3 centuries of the Common Era. Their journey began in the 2nd century BCE, that is from 60 to 270 AD, when the Yuezhi conquered Bactria, dividing the land into 5 chiefdoms. Among these, the Kushans, or Guishwang, stood out. A century later, the visionary Kushan chief Kujula Kadphises, also known as Chujuke, unified the Yuezhi kingdom, setting the stage for a new era of prosperity and influence. They became torchbearers of Buddhism, spreading its teachings across Central Asia and China while fostering the development of Mahayana Buddhism. Their patronage of art gave birth to the renowned Gandhara and Mathura schools, blending cultural influences into breathtaking works of beauty. Adorned with the images of Greek, Roman, Iranian, Hindu and Buddhist deities, and inscribed with adapted Greek letters, their coins embody the spirit of tolerance and cultural syncretism that defined the Kushan Empire. However, as the Sasanian dynasty rose in Iran and regional powers emerged in northern India, the Kushan reign gradually waned. Yet, their legacy endures, a tale of unity, innovation, and a harmonious blending of traditions that enriched civilizations across Asia and beyond. By the time the Gupta dynasty rose to prominence, around the 4th to 6th centuries AD, Buddhism in India found itself standing at a crossroads. The revival of the Brahmanic religion and the flourishing devotion of the Bhakti movement began to overshadow the once dominant Buddhist traditions. The Gupta dynasty, though traditionally Hindu, displayed a remarkable spirit of inclusivity. They were devoted patrons of Brahmanism, yet they respected and protected the rights of Buddhists and Jains to freely practice their faiths. Sanchi, with its ancient stupas and vibrant spiritual life, remained a vital center for Buddhism during their reign. Despite these challenges, the Gupta period saw the emergence of remarkable Buddhist monastic centers, or mahaviharas, which evolved into thriving universities. Among these, Nalanda, the greatest university at that time, founded by Kumaragupta around 455 CE, stood as a beacon of intellectual and spiritual exploration. It went far beyond traditional Buddhist teachings, offering a curriculum that embraced philosophy, science, medicine, and the arts. It became the heart of Mahayana Buddhism, which was rapidly establishing itself as the dominant tradition in India, and its halls echoed with the pursuit of wisdom. Narasimhagupta Baladitya, for instance, stood out as a unique figure. Under the influence of the Mahayanist philosopher Vasubandhu, he embraced Buddhist ideals and undertook remarkable projects in their honor. He built a Sangharama at Nalanda and a towering 300-foot vihara housing a Buddha statue, which, according to the Chinese monk Xuanzang, rivaled the grandeur of the vihara beneath the sacred Bodhi tree. Baladitya's spiritual dedication was so profound that, as recounted in the Manjushrimula Kalpa, he eventually renounced his royal duties, becoming a Buddhist monk and transcending this world through deep meditation, or dhyana. His legacy of faith was carried forward by his son, Vajra, who commissioned another Sangharama and was praised by Xuanzang for his unwavering devotion. This lineage of rulers with hearts firmly anchored in Buddhist ideals serves as a testament to the Gupta dynasty's complex and evolving relationship with faith, one of tolerance, transformation, and enduring spiritual impact. During the Gupta era, the establishment of mahaviharas, or great monasteries, marked a significant milestone in Buddhist history. These institutions, often functioning as universities, became renowned centers of learning and spiritual practice. The most famous Mahavihara, Nalanda, rose to prominence as a hub of intellectual and cultural activity. Monks at Nalanda not only studied and refined Mahayana and Vajrayana thought, but also integrated broader Indian scientific and cultural knowledge into their curriculum. Over time, other Mahaviharas emerged, each contributing uniquely to the spread of Buddhist thought and culture. These institutions had a profound influence not just in India but across Asia, shaping the spiritual and intellectual life of countless communities. While Buddhist institutions flourished under the Guptas, accounts from Chinese pilgrims visiting India between 400 and 700 CE painted a mixed picture. Pilgrims like Faxian, who journeyed across the Gobi Desert in 399 CE to collect scriptures and statues, noted signs of decline in the Buddhist community. The most famous traveller, Xuanzang, who arrived in India in the 7th century, described the devastation wrought by the Huns, a nomadic Central Asian people who had destroyed countless monasteries. However, Xuanzang also found hope in places like Nalanda, where he studied Yogacara philosophy and witnessed the enduring spirit of Buddhism. Following the destruction caused by the Huns, Buddhism saw a revival, particularly in the northeast under the Pala dynasty. The Pala dynasty ruled the regions of Bengal and Bihar for about 400 years, from the 8th century until the end of the 11th century, with about 20 leaders on the throne during the period. Gopala, the first Pala king, was a Buddhist, and so all of his descendants also were. It's no surprise when you consider how involved the rulers were in the management of their empire, that this also extended to religion. They used the revenue from the new tax collection methods to fund initiatives all across the region that would spread Buddhism. The most important of these were the large monasteries like Paharpur, that was founded during the reign of King Dharma Pala Deva. Interestingly, though, most of the subjects in the area controlled by the Pala Empire were actually Hindus. The Pala kings, devoted patrons of Buddhism, protected the Mahaviharas and built new centres like Odantapuri, near Nalanda. They also established systems to oversee and support these institutions. Under the Palas, Vajrayanabuddhism flourished, introducing innovative doctrines, symbols and tantric rituals aimed at generating spiritual power and accelerating the path to enlightenment. As the Pala dynasty progressed, Buddhist interactions with China waned, and attention turned toward Tibet and Southeast Asia. In this later period, Indian Buddhists played a crucial role in shaping the religious and cultural traditions of these regions, ensuring that the legacy of Buddhism continued to inspire new generations far beyond its homeland. Here we come to the end of part 1 of our series. We shall cover the spread of Buddhism to other lands, the demise of Buddhism in India, the impact of colonization and the modern era, the contemporary revival of Buddhism in India, and Buddhism in the Western world in our next video. Thank you for staying with us. Please do like and subscribe to our channel. Please let us know your views in the comment section.